One thing that has remained unchanged at Phoenix Contact since 1923 is our passion for technology. With new ideas, we turn challenges into opportunities and into solutions for the future. Phoenix Contact is a German family-owned company and global player. Thanks to our several development sites, 10 production sites and more than 50 worldwide sales subsidiaries, our solutions are always where our customers need them. The world is becoming more intelligent, more flexible, more digital. Today already, we're developing appropriate products and solutions. For example, web technologies and security mechanisms are already part and parcel of many of our products and manufacturing processes. Together with our customers and partners, we are helping to shape Industry 4.0, the intelligent production of tomorrow. Keeping in mind a sustainable use of resources and respecting the environment are priorities for us. Let's look ahead and shape the future together.
Українська армія успішно наступає на півдні України та на Донбасі. Перемога здобувається кров'ю наших воїнів. Просто пам'ятайте, зараз кожної миті мирні Київ, Львів, Хмельницький, Черкаси, Чернівці починаються в Бахмуті, Херсоні, Криму. Вже вдруге енергетична бізнес-спільнота оголошує благодійний аукціон. Це інвестиція в наше майбутнє. Всі кошти від продажу лотів будуть передані Збройним силам України для зміцнення бойової міці нашої армії. Кошти від попереднього аукціону вже працюють на перемогу. Допомагайте Збройним силам України. З нами Бог, з нами генерал Валерій Залужний та наші титани українське військо. Дякуємо всім, хто допомагає. Ми сильні, коли ми разом.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It depends the part of the world where you are. It's afternoon in Kyiv and it's Energy Security Forum. We're discussing post-war recovery of the Ukrainian energy sector, and the forum is organized by Energy Club. Our panel is focused on exploration and production of hydrocarbons in Ukraine and risks, evaluation and views on reserves and resources and prospectives. There are different views on how much reserves Ukraine has and how much resources of gas, condensate, and oil. There are different views on the prices for gas, condensate, and oil produced in Ukraine for next 5-10 years. There are different views on risks, including definitely war risk and risks of taxation and governmental actions. There are different views on what investments we need and which format of investments we need in Ukraine, what technology we need for oil and gas sector, which format this technology should be brought in the country. So there are a lot of views, a lot of different ideas, and it would be great to discuss these ideas today. And I would give the floor to our first speaker, Andriy Favorov, who has brilliant experience in energy, in gas trading, and exploration and production. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yevgen. I appreciate an opportunity to speak to everybody in this difficult time. And I think that the current event and the current shortages and the ongoing war of aggression by Russia on the Ukraine really highlight the necessity to take a holistic picture and to holistically rethink the energy sector of Ukraine. If we take like a bird eye view on what's happening in the sector, in the country, I think the last 30 years since the independence of the country, Ukraine has lived under the resources and under the investments that were made in the energy sector during the Soviet times. And that means not only the gas production and exploration, but it also means the electricity generation, coal mining, hydro resources, nuclear power plants. And if there's one characteristic that connects all of this different fields of the energy production and energy distribution and energy generation is intense centralization of these resources. The Soviet designed energy grid and energy system implied on the electricity side large volumes of export of Soviet electricity into Europe, and therefore the transmission system has been designed to accomplish this task. It has been designed with redundancy, and so at the parlance on the energy side, on the electricity side, is over-engineered for stability. And we see the benefits of this during the war, because it does have some robustness within the system that allows it to maintain energy deliveries. Granted, there are limitations, even during this difficult time when the Russians are bombing the substations. Now, the same issues are being faced in the gas sector. What do I mean by that? We have a fairly old and fairly antiquated gas transportation system that is meant to deliver hundreds of billions of cubic meters of natural gas into Europe from the Siberian fields of Russian Federation. I mean, but this huge and large system implies significant costs that are associated with operating such an enormous system. And the question is, do we need to continue to maintaining this cost, the operations of the compressor stations, the maintenance, the repairs, or is it unnecessarily redundant at this point, because we see that it's questionable whether anybody, meaning Russian Federation, will be paying Ukraine for maintaining such system when the export volumes are simply not there. Similar situation is what happened on the exploration, the key to your question, on the exploration side. Again, centralized Soviet engineering and exploration that had a major success in 1970s with the discovery and proof of the commercial viability of the Dnepro-Donetsk basin, with such discoveries as Shebelinka, which is, I think, one of the top 10 discoveries in the history of natural gas regarding the volumes and reservoir. But now we're looking, on the example of Shebelinka, we're looking at about 85–90% exhaustion of these reserves. We're looking at the pressures within the field of about 2 to 4 atmospheres when the gas transportation network operates at 27 atmospheres. So it requires a tremendous amount of energy just to compress this gas coming out of Shebelinka field into the system, into the gas transportation system. Similar situation is with the other fields. I mean, basic statistic dictates that chances are that first you're going to find the easiest, which is the largest field, which was Shebelinka, and every single next discovery within the same basin and within the same sort of geological conditions is going to be smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And this is the trend that we've seen. So the traditional gas that has supported Ukraine and has been used to supply to the Ukrainian economy has been exhausted. Now the reserves, because I'm not prepared to call them like economically, commercially confirmed reserves, they're more of a prospects. So there is some hypotheses out there that there is more gas at the deeper levels of the Dnepro-Donetsk region. Instead of 4 kilometers, give or take, it's 6 kilometers, give or take, which necessarily increases cost and complexity of recovering these reserves. But we can't call them a confirmed reserves until we drill the exploration wells and actually physically confirm that the gas is there, A, and B, that we can get to it in an economically viable fashion. So the investment focus on this, in this example, has to shift away from production from the exhausted fields that we have extracted 85–90% of the volumes, and it has to shift the major investments. I'm talking about 70–80% of the investment has to shift to the exploration, the process of finding new reserves that will create the future for the oil and gas industry in Ukraine. And we see similar dynamics, not only with the deep drilling, but also with an offshore drilling around the Crimea, around the Odessa, Black Sea Basin, such as Dolphin. I mean, there is a viable hypothesis that there's a significant reserves available in Black Sea Basin, but until we drill successful exploration wells, until we confirm that there's exploration wells are economically viable, they will remain a hypothesis. Similar situation is with tight gas / shale gas. There are significant reserves of it, but again, until we drill successful wells, we can't confirm these reserves. So I think as a final point, the fundamental assumption that has been operating within the oil and gas industry of Ukraine since about 2014, 2015, that there's 1 trillion cubic meters of reserves, we have to critically look at it. We have to critically examine what is meant by it and when we'll be able to confirm the viability of this assumption. And that requires investment in exploration, and that requires a careful assessment of the real state of the reserves. I personally, and I believe Zhenya, you as well, believe that the reserves are there. But it is our belief and it's our hypothesis. A tremendous amount of work on the exploration side needs to be done in order to convert these reserves into the proven reserves.
Thank you. I have one question, which is very interesting for me, and you're probably the best person to ask. When we talk about reserves, and when we calculate reserves according to the Western standards, we use prices for gas and oil and condensate to define what is economically reasonable reserves to produce. And what is your expectation? What's your view on the price of gas of Ukrainian production and oil and condensate for next 5-10 years? Why am I asking? Because now practically all oil and gas companies are thinking about the future, and they have to understand what will be the economically reasonable investments. And in order to define it, they would like to guess about the price and look at their reserves. And your view on the prices for the next 5-10 years might be very important to plan the future.
Well, let me try to outline a few scenarios that I think about it. First, I think we have left for the foreseeable future, we've left the analytics around that fundamental question away from the pure economics, and it's more of a geopolitical issue. Frankly, the victory of Ukraine within the war is going to drive the prices down. And when the victory is solidified, when Ukrainian forces free up Ukrainian territory, when Russia is defeated, it's going to be a huge blow to the Russian economy. It's going to be a huge blow to the Russian monopoly on a centralized export of energy resources out of the Russian Federation. And as such, I do see a world where there's a mad scramble to get gas and oil out of Russia, whereby no more centralized control over the commercial policy will drive these prices significantly down. So this is one dynamic that we need to talk about. The second dynamic is the victory of Ukraine, but some sort of a centralized control over the pricing remains within Russia, and the standoff, the global standoff between the supplier of energy resources and the buyer of energy resources in Europe remains. And so then we're looking at a huge volumes, approximately 30 to 40% of the European gas deliveries prior to war came from Russia, that is taken off the market. So what does that mean? That the prices in Europe will continue to remain at exuberantly high levels, which we see right now, because it just costs more to deliver liquefied natural gas to the markets such as Europe. And there's a tremendous competition globally for this resource between Europe and Asia I'm talking economies of Japan, I'm talking a growing economy of China, and there's a big competition that will remain the prices higher. So that creates a different opportunity for Ukraine. It creates an opportunity to actually create a producing country, an export-oriented energy country that will deliver the resources that we believe are there, if we can successfully execute the exploration strategy, to Europe, because there is a gas transportation infrastructure which is significant, which will cost significantly less to convert this gas from gas into the financial resources, because we don't need to freeze this and liquefy this natural gas and deliquefy this natural gas as our American friends and competitors, let's say. So that's the secondary dynamic that goes around it. Third dynamic is how permanent is the demand destruction is going to be over this year of high energy prices. I mean, what's going to happen with the chemical and fertilizer consumers which are driving this demand in Europe? Can they remain competitive? Can they remain producing their products given these high energy costs? And if they cannot, what happens to this production facilities? Do they get shut off? Do they get shut off for good? Do they go bankrupt? Are they going to be rebuilt at a future time? These are the questions that are unknown. Personally, my view falls. I'm trying to calibrate these three parallel dynamics, and I view this it is some sort of a scenario. First, we can be sure that the volatility of the prices is going to be very high. So there's going to be spikes, and then there's going to be shallows, and the weather moving forward is going to have more and more impact on the pricing than even before because of this tight supply market. And it's a lot more difficult to schedule just-in-time deliveries on the liquefied natural gas. So my first hypothesis is the volatility is going to be very high. Second, my second premise is that given the high volatility, and it truly is becoming more and more of a global market, and it's no longer a European energy and gas market, and it's no longer an Asian gas market. There is more and more interconnection, and the changes in one market have a direct impact on the other market. Third component is Ukraine is going to have to compete for the investment necessary to increase this production, because people like Qataris, Saudis, the Middle Eastern producers, American producers, they're not sitting on their hands. They are not debating the relative advantages of the Soviet-style centralized economy when it comes to energy production. They're just going in there. They're developing the technology. They're developing the processes to deliver this gas cheaply and effectively. And that's the big question is, if these investments are being made overseas and if the market is being globalized, is there going to be a space for Ukraine to claim a share of that market? And that requires complete rethink of the way that we manage the industry. It requires getting away from the centralized, top-down, hierarchical control of the industry in Ukraine and setting free smaller, effective, nimble companies that can attract private capital to explore for these reserves, and more importantly, that feel protected and that feel that their rights, the exploration rights, are protected and not going to be stripped away by the government, which unfortunately so often happens within the framework of Ukraine, whereby as soon as the prices spike, the taxes spike, and when the or if you have a big find on the natural resources side, somebody shows up and tries to expropriate it from you under some questionable auspicities. So we are in a global market. The competition for the consumer is high, and it will continue to increase. And it does require for us the same laser sharp focus and effectiveness that the Ukrainian army is displaying fighting the Russian military, is the same focus and initiative is required on the energy front for the country to have its energy independence, energy sovereignty, and an energy victory.
Andrew, thank you very much. I would allow myself another question for you, and that is a hypothetical question. If we imagine that you have all the power of Ukrainian government, parliament, and the president, and you can make one decision for oil and gas industry of Ukraine, only one decision, and you have all the power in the country, what this decision would be?
Break up the centralized structures, break them up to the smallest components. So we look at the Naftogaz right now. It's a huge centralized monopoly, a hierarchical pyramid where all the, if I'm allowed to quote Tony Sopranos, where all the money goes to the top and all the, and I quote, all the shit goes down. Basically, everybody on the bottom, close to the well, close to the compressor station, is getting all the blame and not getting much retention or resources. Whereas all the good stuff are being made PR campaigns and huge bonuses about without actually delivering the results. So we don't need Naftogaz to increase the production. We don't need centralized UGV structure to increase production. What we need is we have 3 regional structures, one Poltava, one Kharkiv, and one Lviv. And underneath of them, there is about between 4 and 5 of the smaller producing areas. I do believe that each one of them needs to be, and it's about 15 total companies, 14, 15. Each one of this needs to be run as a separate company. It needs to have a management that is motivated to compete with the others one. The allocation of capital can be made on a central level, let's say in Kyiv, centralized between the projects that are being presented by the management of each one of these small companies that says, hey, allocate so much capital to me, I will drill or I will improve this way or the other, and this is going to be an economic return on your investment. And only the key is to unlock the pent-up capacity of the Ukrainian management right there in the field. Capacity of the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian energy specialists and experts right there in the field. It's not about a theoretical exercises in Kyiv, within Rada, within administration of the president, within the Ministry of Energy. No, that's a strategy that we have pursued for the last 30 years. And that's a strategy that's gotten us to the point that we're at today, where the production is falling, where there's a lack of focus, when there is the lack of opportunities, when there is a constant struggle for power instead of struggle to increase production and unlock the main resource, the main commodity, which is the human capital, human ingenuity, and the human desire to transform the conditions that they're in through increase and improvement of natural gas production in the country.
Andrew, thank you very much. It's very interesting, very important, and very valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just can't see the next speaker. Is Artem Petrenko with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good day, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And you heard beginning of our discussion, and Artem Petrenko is the executive director of Association of Gas Producers of Ukraine, the person who knows all information from the fields and who has always fresh news for us. And your view is extremely important because it's practically view of the industry. The floor is yours.
Yep. Thank you very much. Good day, everybody. I would like to present a small presentation regarding the current situation with the gas production of Ukraine. Lots of interesting information and what we as a association have been doing for this for the last year, of course, and all that we were able to do, starting from the 24th of February when Russians made a big aggression on the territory of Ukraine. 1 second, please. I hope you can see my presentation. So currently, as I said before, I will talk about what we've been doing and what is the situation with the current gas production industry. Of course, currently we have great aggression by the Russians. However, if we look at the news and the map of the territory that was occupied by the Russians like in March, and if we compare it to the current situation, we see that Ukrainian armed forces are actively working on the occupation of the territory of Ukraine. Currently, we see a big problem because, as you know, before, starting from the 24th of February, Russians actively started attacking Ukrainian territory, including eastern part of Ukraine, because everybody knows that 90% of all of the natural gas is being produced in Poltava and Kharkiv region. Therefore, we had lots of problems, and I would like to thank all of the companies, the state-owned and the privates, who were able to continue producing gas where it's possible, even in very dangerous situation. So currently, nevertheless, we had a decrease in the production, and we're currently having it right now. And of course, if we talk about the numbers, which will be at the end of the year, if you talk about our analytics, that we were able to make in March or April, we saw a huge decrease of the gas production by the companies. However, by the deoccupation of the territories of Ukraine, including Kharkiv region, we see good news when the state-owned company are able to make great effort to produce gas more, and of course, including private companies, because we have great numbers when after the deoccupation of some territories, some private companies were able to show the increase of the gas production in like 30–50% a day. Of course, due to current Ukrainian legislation and the situation, I'm not able to comment publicly all my names of the companies or the territories where we've been doing. However, currently, what is my message for everybody is that the gas production companies, both state-owned and private, are doing everything they can to continue producing gas. They drill wells where it is possible and where the safety reasons provide the possibility to do it. And currently, for our analytics, we see that we will have a decrease of the gas production. However, if we talk about the first analytics, I thought that the decrease would be like 15%. However, currently, we see the numbers will be like 7–8%, not more than 10% a year. However, of course, the situation may change rapidly because you know the information that both the Prime Minister said and the Naftogaz said and UGV, that we had a rocket launch and rocket attack on the objects of the gas production of the UGV. And of course, we understand that it will make some decrease the gas production. However, I would like to say to everybody that the Russians won't be able to destroy Ukrainian gas production industry. So currently, unfortunately, we have some fields of the companies, including private companies, which are occupied by the Russians. They're physically occupied and the gas is not being produced there. Some of the fields are in fact occupied, however, gas is being there produced. And of course, as I said before, the main reason for the companies and the main help from Ukraine is that our armed forces are able to fight back Russians from the territories, including Kharkiv region, first of all. And as I said before, we have great numbers for some of the companies which were able to increase daily production by more than 30–40% since the liberation of the territories of the Kharkiv region. We have positive news regarding the big PSA projects which were announced in 2019 and signed on the New Year's Eve on the 2020. As you know, Zahidnodraservis, the biggest private gas producing company in the Western region, which is really actively working, drilling wells, producing more gas and buying new licenses. They were the first in Ukraine who were able to produce gas under their production sharing agreement. Shell came to Ukraine and due to different reasons wasn't able to do it. Chevron came and wasn't able to do it. ExxonMobil came and wasn't able to do it. However, Ukrainian Zahidnodraservis was able to do it. And currently, starting from the April, they're producing gas. And we have good news, understand that this block, which is situated in the western of Ukraine, is a great example that there is gas in the territory of Ukraine, including West region, and it needs to be rapidly invested in order to produce more gas and have more energy security, of course, including the situation that we have currently with Russians. because maybe you saw the news that Gazprom will be decreasing the amount of gas that will be transported by the territory of Ukraine. And from our side, we have a great risk that in some time, possibly in December or January, nobody knows, the Russians will be able to stop the transit by the territory of Ukraine of the gas that's being produced in the Western Siberia. Of course, it will be a great problem for Ukraine. However, due to the fact how our gas transmission system was built, and due to the work that's been done by our guys from the energy sector, I'm sure, and we know that both commodities and both the commercial users will be able to use gas that will be imported, that's stored in the storages, and that's been produced by both state-owned and private companies. Also, this year, starting from the war, we had a great job and lots of work, including the tax-based approach from the royalties, because in February, before the active phase of war, we had a great discussion with the government and with the parliaments, including the fact what to do with the tax rates and tax base, because the government wanted to rapidly increase the royalty fees for the gas production companies. The increase was in sometimes like 3 or 5 times. It was a really bad thing for the gas production companies. Therefore, we were able to have some discussion with the government before the war, and the law was adopted in March, saying that there is increase of the tax rates, and the tax-based approach is changed, and it will be connected like with the TTF hub, which is one of the biggest hubs in Ukraine, in Europe, I'm sorry, saying that this will be the tax regime for the gas production companies in the future. However, of course, after the start of the full-scale war on the territory of Ukraine, we saw lots of facts, and we saw this information when there was a huge increase of the gas prices in Europe, when we saw that it was like 2,000 euros per 1,000 cubic meters. Then we had like numbers like 3,000 euros per 2,000 cubic meters. Then we had like 3,500 euros for 1,000 cubic meters. However, in Ukraine, after the full scale of war, the export of gas was banned by the government, and also we had the situation that due to the stop of the economy, due to destruction of loss of the commercial users, we started having the problem is that the gas prices are not connected in Ukraine, are not more connected with the gas prices in Europe. We have the profit of gas, and lots of private companies are not able to sell the gas because nobody is able to buy it because the economy stopped. Therefore, we had lots of discussion with the government, with the parliaments, and in fact, what we have been able to do, we made 2 very important things. The first one, which was adopted in May, it says that the royalties by the private companies is paid only after the companies are able to sell the gas. It's a really important thing, saying that if the companies produce gas and inject it in the storages and don't sell it to any commercial users, therefore the royalty is paid for this gas only after this gas has been sold. As I said before, it's really important because the companies won't need to stop gas production because they won't need to pay royalties after it's been produced, only after it's been sold. It's a great thing for both the state and the companies, helping them to not stop gas production, to produce more and sell the gas when the situation is possible to do it. Then we had a great discussion on the tax-based approach because, as I said before the war, the TTF hub, it worked in Ukraine. We had TTF plus most of the time. However, of course, of the full scale of war, as I said before, the situation changed. We had a discussion in spring regarding this thing to change the tax-based approach and connect it to Ukrainian prices. However, at that time, our negotiations were not successful. However, then, of course, I didn't stop to discuss this matter, and what's really important that like not much more than months ago, the state, the parliaments and the governments agreed on our information, saying that it's not normal when we say we have the tax-based approach, which is like 2 or 3 times more or bigger than the prices of the gas that's being sold in Ukraine. So in effect, currently we have the situation that the gas prices in Ukraine without VAT is like $700. If the prices are higher, the commercial users are not able to buy it because we have a big problem with the economy, is the fact. Therefore, we had a great discussion saying that if we have a bad thing with the take-based approach, many private companies will have a negative financial flow because the amount of money that needs to be paid by the taxes, by the royalties, which will be bigger than the money that they receive from selling the gas. Therefore, currently, we adopted a very important law saying that we have a new tax-based regime currently due to the war situation and due to the ban of the export, which says that the new tax base is connected with two indicatives. The first one is the prices by which Naftogaz will need to buy the gas from the private companies. The second thing at the exchange, the electronic commodity exchanges. The second thing is that the prices by which natural gas producing companies, privates, sell the gas at the electronic commodity exchanges. And the third thing is that the price agencies, Argus and ISIS, and Ministry of Economy every month looks at all of these indicatives, takes the highest of it, and publishes it as the text-based approach. From our side, I would like to thank everybody who helped us with this initiative, because it's really important that currently we see that the text base is similar, in fact, to the prices that are currently in Ukraine. Therefore, it helps the companies, of course, due to increase of the royalty fees, helps them not to stop gas production. They continue gas production. They sell the gas to the customers. It also helped a little bit to decrease the gas prices, and the companies produce gas, sell the gas, and pay the royalties, which is currently really important for the states, of course, due to the current situation and the winter. And as said before, if the companies are not able to sell the gas due to the fact that lots of commercial users are stopped, they can inject the gas into storages and pay the royalties only after it's been sold to the customers. Therefore, it's really important. Currently, after 9 months of 2022, natural gas producing companies have already paid nearly 50 billion hryvnias to the budget, as state-owned 95% of which is getting, and local budgets are also getting 5%. And if we look at the numbers and the prices, we understand that natural gas producing companies will be among the leaders on the amounts of taxes that will be paid to the state budget, which is really important because, in fact, these taxes go to the help and to finance the armed forces and our future victory against Russian aggressors. Including the current situation, to be clear, so we've done great job to help gas producing companies work under this situation. We are producing gas as possible, as where it is possible. We're drilling wells, and I said before, unfortunately, I cannot tell lots of successful stories by the gas producing companies because due to the war situation and due to the fact that the Russians can drop the bomb on the rockets where they want, and so unfortunately. However, if we talk about the future, including the fact that there is great legal initiative, I'm sure that on the deregulation of the sector and saying the right to sell the licenses between the companies, including state-owned companies with some restrictions. Which is really important is that after the victory, of course, we'll be able to attract companies, including big international companies on our projects. And of course, most of the projects, the biggest one are the PSAs that were signed by the private companies, by the UGV also. And of course, really important projects that were provided to the Naftogaz or UGV in 2020. of course, is the Yuzovska block, which may be worked only after the full victory, because currently some part of it unfortunately is occupied, and the situation there is difficult. Of course, is the Dolphin project with the Black Sea offshore, which is currently is a simple license. However, it may be converted to the PSA, and as I said before, PSA tenders by the private companies. Also, the tight gas projects which we currently have by the UGV, and also by the private companies. From my information, we understand that there is lots of tight gas in Ukraine, and there are some good examples by some of the companies when using new technologies, they're able to drill new wells, which are pretty deep, pretty important, pretty expensive. I'm sorry. However, the debits from these wells is like 600,000 cubic meters a day. Yep, 5. So it's great examples. I'm not able to show or to say what are the companies. However, there is gas in Ukraine, of course. The gas will be needed by Ukraine after the victory, of course, and by the European Union, because we understand that currently Europeans have lots of gas in the storages. However, next year will be pretty difficult, of course, for them, and I'm sure that we'll need to invest and provide them the help with the gas. And also, it will help Ukraine to become, in fact, energy independent, because currently, due to the reduction of the gas consumption by both the commodities and the commercial users, we say that if we produce a little bit more, in fact, the numbers that we had before the war, I can say that Ukraine will be able to become natural gas sufficient and be able to export the gas, because unfortunately, to rebuild lots of these plants that were made in Ukraine, I'm sure it's not a matter of a week or a month. We understand that it's a matter of years. And from this time, the companies will be able to produce gas, to drill more, to drill deep, and to be able to export the gas to the European Union, help our partners. Ukraine will be energy sufficient, and this money will come to the state budget by the royalties, which is really, really important. And as I said before, we have lots of interesting projects. We've been actively working on them last year before the full-scale war. And as I said before, we have lots of great examples. So when we have conventional greenfields, the example, for example, by the company of Zakhinodra Service in the Western region says that even if you have the conventional greenfield that was not didn't have any gas production before, there is great examples in job, there is gas there. Tight gas, as I said before, drill great wells, make lots of new technologies, and there is gas. Deep horizons, yes, there is gas in deep in Ukraine, including eastern region, and we go deeper, 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers, there is gas there, and the debits there are great. PSAs have great examples that these projects are important for the Ukrainian gas industry. We have great agreements saying that the taxation regime is stable, which is important for, first of all, international companies. Yuzivka, which was like one of the biggest projects when we had Shell, needs lots of investments, and of course the occupation, and Black Sea, of course, it may become a state project. Well, we need really to attract big company, because Ukraine, in fact, not only including Chernomor Naftogaz, we don't have like experience in working there. The experience of Turkey and the experience of Romania said that there is gas in the Black Sea, and I'm sure that these projects may be grateful and very important to produce more, to attract more companies, and to export this gas to the territory of Ukraine. Thank you very much for your attention. That's for me. If there are any questions, it will be a great job for me to answer them.
John, thank you very much. It's greatly informational, and it's very, very interesting. It's the whole picture of the country and perspectives of the industry. I have two small questions for you, if you could answer. The first, if you could some kind estimate of effect of this battle on rental fee base for the industry. Did it have negative effect, or it was more or less okay in terms of production and investment planning? It's the first question, but then I ask the second.
Yeah, I will say that. So the companies anyway didn't stop the gas production because we have lots of obligations on that. So everybody needs to say that. Of course, everybody knows that in order to be able to not to fall, we need to drill new wells. Everybody knows that. Of course, when we had a great problem with the selling of gas and the rocket launches by the Russians, when we had the problems with the companies to drill, we know the situation like with some of the companies from Belarus who were drilling wells in Ukraine. And of course, due to the fact that Belarus in fact are helping Russians, they were sanctioned and banned from the territory of Ukraine. Of course, lots of these problems said that the companies were not able to drill these wells that we were planning to do this year. Because of course, last year we had great examples of great prices. Of course, it was a motivation for the companies to produce more. Of course, like for like 3 or 4 months after the full-scale war, we didn't have peak investments in drilling. However, both like state-owned and private companies, as I said before, we cannot say publicly where any wells were drilled. However, for example, as I said before, Zakhodnodar service are actively drilling wells. Privates are also drilling wells in some territories of Ukraine. And as UGV said publicly, they've been actively drilling wells, and the gas production there is pretty stable. If we talk about the investments, I've answered your question, I'm sure. If we talk about the gas production, as I said before, so due to the fact that there were not so many wells drilled as was planning, lots of private companies have a huge decrease due to the fact that the wells are pretty deep. Of course, it negatively affects the production. However, currently the numbers I see that the companies are raising. And as I've said at the beginning, if some analytics show that if we continue with the numbers that were like in March or April, the reduction of the gas production would be like 15% a year, which is pretty high. However, currently, I say that the numbers are like 7-8%, because like 1 month ago, we planned and thought that it would be like decrease of 10%. Currently, I say that it's like 8%. And if we continue like that, hopefully the decrease will be like 6 or 7% a year. And as I said, so the taxation was a very important thing for the companies to understand, because of course, if the taxation, the amount of the royalties that should be paid by the gas production companies would be more than the money that they receive from selling the gas, of course, some of the companies, they wouldn't stop, of course. However, we won't be able to tell about some like drilling or any investment. So it would be like a great shock for the companies. Currently, it helped them. So they have a stable and understandable tax regime, tax base. And as I said before, I really see that companies are finishing drilling wells, but helping to that. And they're increasing the gas production.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, 2 more questions, if you allow me. The next question is there any common view among the members of your association about the gas price in Ukraine for next 5-10 years? Any number which the companies use when they look at their reserves? Or it's different opinions?
I will say that there are some different opinions on the situation. So as I said before, we're like working, it will need to be market prices, no any like fixed prices, etc. There is need to be a market for commercial users currently that we've been working actively for like 7 years. Yep. So currently what I really see, I'm sure that everybody can say that. So if you talk with the commercial customers, or if we talk about the traders, we see that if the gas prices are like higher than $1,000 currently, the selling of the gas is pretty difficult. If we are talking about current situation, so under like under $1,000, it works. Of course, there are some inflation processes. However, it's the problem not only in Ukraine. So if we talk about the what we can say about the future, yeah, like we thought that like 3 years ago that the gas will be cheap, and then in 2 years the gas was like 10 or 20 times higher than it was like in 2019, 2020. Yep. So let's remember when the COVID started, we had the gas price for like $50 per 1,000 cubic meters. Then like this year, in like when we had in summer, we had the prices were like more than $3,000 in summer, because as everybody said, who doesn't know gas markets, said that gas market is pretty simple. In summer you buy, yep, and in winter you sell. However, it doesn't work anymore. Yep. So the gas market is really not working. So 2 months ago, we had the prices like more than $3,000. Currently, the gas prices are like $1,300. And as I said before, due to the news from the Gazprom, I'm sure that in a week or two, we will have increase of the gas prices in Europe. Nevertheless, that they have lots of gas in the storages. And this initiative from the government saying that the royalties are connected to Ukrainian prices are really important for both the customers and the natural gas producing companies to pay taxes and produce gas.
Thank you. And the third question, if you have all the power in the country, like the president, the government, the Verkhovna Rada, and you can make one decision for the industry, for oil and gas industry, what the decision would be?
Well, I will say that, in fact, the answer is pretty simple. We need to have understandable rules of game, and they need to be stable. So we need to motivate all of the investments in the natural gas production. That's simple. So we need to have stable system when the prices are connected to Ukrainian prices of gas. The companies will understand what are the royalty fees, and they will not be changed in like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, doesn't matter. And we need to attract and to motivate all of the possible investments to the Ukrainian natural gas industry, because the royalties which are paid for the companies shouldn't be like the main financial factor for the government or the state, we'll call it that way. Yes, we need to have the royalties. It's understandable. They shouldn't be zero. I understand that. Everybody understands that. However, they have to be pretty understandable, stable, because the investors need to understand what will be the tax system. Currently, in fact, what was from our side, what was really great discussion, and what's really important, that these tax royalties that were adopted by the Verkhovna Rada, by the parliament, in March, they have the system is saying that you more charge the prices of gas which are more than $400. So the part of the prices which are below $400 are charged by the fees that were before the changes. So it's really important. It was like our victory, saying that before lower than $400, the tax royalties are in fact the way that they were before. And the biggest timing of the increase of the royalty fees is saying more than $400. This part of the prices are charging more. However, from our personal victory, saying that we were able to safely state that new gas wells are also currently stimulated as we were stimulated before, because our numbers show that the initiative of the new gas wells that was adopted in 2018, first of all, helped the private producing companies to increase the gas production. And before the war, they produced 5 billion cubic meters of gas. And if the full-scale war didn't start, from our analytics and due to all of these projects, we saw that the increase will be like more than 200 or 300 million cubic meters a year, I'm sorry, which is great for Ukrainian economy.
Thank you very, very much. It's very interesting. And it was Artem Petrenko, practically the voice of the industry, of oil and gas industry. Thank you very much. We have no more speakers today. If you have any questions or any issues to be raised for discussion, I would be thankful. If not, we will draw the line under our discussion. Andrew, from your side, any issues, any comments?
No, I mean, I appreciate the comment I think Artem made, and it's in the importance of stable and predictable tax regime cannot be underestimated. It cannot change based on the market conditions, because this constant changes is shooting the industry in its own foot. because not only do you have to deal with unpredictable prices for the products that you're producing, you also have to deal with unpredictable cost side when it's on the tax side. So there has to be a fundamental decision. What is important? If gas production is important for the industry, give a chance for the industry to make money. That's how you drive the gas production, because people respond to the economical incentives, and it's a good economical incentive to make money. And at the end, in the longer run, the industry and the country benefits, because it's increase of the stable cash flows to the budget due to the fact that the production will increase. So we have to abandon the short-term thinking. We have to start thinking strategically, and we have to plan for a successful, not only energy sufficient, but energy exporting future of the country, and pursue this and make decisions accordingly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Artem, any comments from your side, remarks?
Yeah, I would like to add to what Andriy said. So, in fact, we have an interesting situation when Ukraine has always been energy dependent. We've been importing lots of gas before 2014 from Russians. And we've been importing like more than 10 billion cubic meters a year from European Union, started from 2015. Yep. So currently, after the victory, we have really a great chance for Ukraine to become, like, I won't say it will be like a hub, however, say that we are able to make a understandable and stable situation that will attract companies, because natural gas production industry will live for like 10 or 20 years, not minimum or more, because currently we see that when in 2020, lots of companies and lots of people in Europe said that you don't need natural gas and you can go to the green economy. We saw the situation decrease of the gas production, but currently they're unfortunately buying the gas by high prices because they don't have it in Europe. And due to the production is not able to fill all of the consumption that's been made by the Europeans. And in Ukraine, we have a great chance to be able to really self-sufficient. Yep, I'm sure we'll be able to do it. And to export gas, as Andrew said, we shall help to the Europeans, which shall reduce the gas that's been produced and transported to Europe by the Russians, because we see that decrease is pretty high. And from our side, if there won't be any political decisions, I'm sure there won't be them. The Russians, in fact, will leave the European gas market because we won't need them. In fact, we won't need Russians. And I don't personally know what they will do with like 700 billion cubic meters of gas, which was produced in Western Siberia. So I don't know what they will do with that. So they left, in fact, they don't have European gas market anymore. Nobody doesn't want to work with them. If like in some time they will stop the transit, I'm sure that nobody will work with the Russians anymore, because they're not stable. That's not normal at all. They don't have the oil market anymore. There are some things with the sanctions. However, the amount of money that they receive is much lower than they will have right now. In a week, we have a new portion of sanctions to the oil of Russians. And Ukraine will become one of the biggest gas producing countries of Europe and be able to transit gas to export gas to the European Union, to earn money from it, and to help to rebuild a Ukrainian economy.
Thank you very much. So to summarize, we probably all agree that now Ukraine has unique situation for its gas production. It's a chance to be self-sufficient, that production of gas in Ukraine will be equal or even more than consumption. And it's a unique situation. We haven't had it for many, many years. We have great potential with our reserves and resources, and it's definitely a place where investment should go. It's a unique opportunity, and many people should not miss it. And we need stability and warranty to the investments that rules of games will not be changed. And we need decentralization of the state companies, where decision will be made closer to the well, not closer to the Krishchatik. And that's summary of our discussion today. I'm very thankful for your participation, for your great ideas, for your expertise and your knowledge and great preparation for the meeting, and wish you all good day and peaceful day, and increase production and make profit. Thank you.
Українська армія успішно наступає на півдні України та на Донбасі. Перемога здобувається кров'ю наших воїнів. Просто пам'ятайте, зараз кожної миті мирні Київ, Львів, Хмельницький, Черкаси, Чернівці починаються в Бахмуті, Херсоні, Криму. Вже вдруге енергетична бізнес-спільнота оголошує благодійний аукціон. Це інвестиція в наше майбутнє. Всі кошти від продажу лотів будуть передані Збройним силам України для зміцнення бойової міці нашої армії. Кошти від попереднього аукціону вже працюють на перемогу. Допомагайте Збройним силам України. З нами Бог, з нами генерал Валерій Залужний та наші титани українське військо. Дякуємо всім, хто допомагає. Ми сильні, коли ми разом.